One of California's familiar missing persons cases is that of 19-year-old Bryce Laspisa. His 2013 disappearance remains unsolved. In an odd series of events, Bryce left Sierra College in Rocklin, California on August 28th of 2013 and drove to Chico to break up with his girlfriend Kim. After that, he decided to make the 500-mile drive to his parents' home in Laguna Nigel. The following day, unaware Bryce was coming, his mom Karen received notification from her insurance company that her son, who was driving the car registered to her, had called for roadside assistance in Kern County. He had run out of gas. Gas was delivered to him by a local service station, but hours later, he was still sitting in the same spot. Worried, Karen called the service station owner and asked if the man would go back and check on Bryce, which he did. He convinced Bryce to continue on, and Karen spoke to Bryce on the phone. He confirmed he was coming home. It should have taken 3 hours from there. But hours later, Bryce still hadn't arrived. The family reported him missing to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, who pinged his phone, and it showed that he was still in Kern County. A little after 7 p.m., a Kern County officer found Bryce parked just a few miles down from where the service station owner had brought him gas. The officer contacted Karen and reported that Bryce seemed fine. There was no sign of intoxication. He had even searched the vehicle and found nothing. This eased Karen's concerns, and around 2 a.m., Bryce called her to say he was tired and had pulled off I-5 to rest. He described the area as residential, and she told him to lock his doors. Hours later, when the doorbell rang, she assumed it was Bryce, but it was a California Highway Patrol officer. The officer told her that her Toyota Highlander SUV had been found in Castaic, roughly 2 hours north of Laguna Nigel. The car was found turned on its side, with all of Bryce's belongings still in the vehicle. There was a small amount of blood on the windshield, and a back window had been broken out. Bryce was nowhere to be found. Her husband Mike drove to the scene. Searches were conducted with boats, planes, helicopters, dogs, and divers, but they turned up very little. One of the dogs followed Bryce's scent down to the lake to a small access road and lost it at a truck stop there. A second dog did exactly the same thing. During the official investigation, some alarming stories came to light. Bryce's roommate and friends say he had started drinking heavily and that they were concerned. He was also experimenting with a stimulant to help keep him awake. They mentioned that his personality had started to change. He even gave away some of his possessions. When Bryce had gone to break up with Kim, she had been so concerned that she actually took his keys away, only giving them back after a conversation with Bryce's mom. Authorities suggested the scene looked like a failed suicide attempt, and that it appeared Bryce had purposely accelerated. When no leads were discovered after 3 weeks, the searches were called off. No sighting of Bryce has ever been reported. During their phone conversation, he had told his mom that he had a lot he needed to talk about, but what that entailed is only speculation. Was it a suicide attempt, a psychotic break? Was there foul play, or did Bryce leave to start a new life?
Hi, welcome to True Crime Psychic Guy, a unique show where we look to balance logic and facts with intuition. Thank you for joining us. My name is Maryam. I'm a psychic medium and teacher of spirituality. Harlow is a writer, artist. She picks the cases, produces the videos, and does the research. You can find her books available on Amazon at Harlow Dane. Denise is a psychic medium, life doula, and Reiki healer who helps women align with their inner wisdom to become their own maven. Myself and Denise do not follow or read up on true crime, so we can come in as clear as possible. Of course, many cases are very high profile, so if we have read or heard about the case, this we will share at the top of the show. New case for both of us. I always just make that grand assumption, right, Denise?
Yep.
Please join us over on our Patreon. So
I do have one correction for the video. I made this, did the research and made it about a month and a half, almost 2 months ago now. And several reputable sources said that the dogs had picked up his scent and lost it at the truck stop. But I've since learned that law enforcement said that's not correct. There were dogs deployed a little bit after, and they were not able to pick up his scent, according to law enforcement. So it makes the case even stranger. That means that nothing was found, no footprints or anything at all around that car.
Wow. Okay, let's come back and revisit that. Thank you for that update.
There's so much misinformation out there on some of these cases, especially that have been going around for a long time.
Sure. Interesting. All right. We are on Patreon. You've got exclusive cases, new content. Denise and I are actually going to be live Patreon only on Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It will also be during a live wrap up, but we're going to jump back into this Heidi Firkus case we did last week, and we're going to do a remote view of the home. It occurred to me after last Monday night. If you guys missed that case, go check it out. It's under our live tab. I thought, you know what? Because we were like the information was so confusing to get. We were able to pin a lot of stuff down, but it was getting a little convoluted. And then afterwards, I thought, you know what? If I can remote view into that home, I bet you we could get some clarification. So Denise and I are going to do that on Monday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's on Patreon only. But we will be live for everyone Monday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, for a unique look into this high-profile case of the Utah mother of 3, Corey Rickens, who allegedly murdered her husband with fentanyl. I mean, what is happening in this world? So we're going to take a look at that case. Please continue to send your recommendations. We take all of your recommendations. We add them all to our list. Ultimately, we do follow our intuition to determine which cases we are going to read and when. So it really isn't like a personal thing. If your case hasn't been done yet, we really just wait for guidance. And that's how I pick all of the, cases. And when we do what we do on Behind the Hauntings, also, it's just based on what our intuition has to say. So with that being said, Patreon, whether you are an enthusiast of true crime, paranormal, or dabbling, looking, curious about spirituality, all 3 of those are there. And then some. You can join these tiers separately. You can join them together. They're very inexpensive. We look to providing you guys with a lot of support and insight without breaking the bank. And we actually will be adding a new tier very soon called Pop Therapy. So stay tuned for that. But for those that are currently on Patreon and are active, you will be a part of our drawing, which we will be doing every month. And you'll get something new every month if you win the drawing. We are picking 2 names tonight because we were supposed to be live Tuesday and I didn't make it. So we're making up for that. We're going to draw 2 names. You're going to get your option of Harlow. What are the choices?
We have these black ceramic 11-ounce mugs. They're really nice. I have one, and I've had it for a year, and it still looks brand new. I use it all the time. Yeah, you have your pick of either just a true crime logo on it, or one with just the Behind the Hauntings logo, or one with each logo, one on each side.
Or you can get my face on it, or Denise's face, or Harlow's. Just kidding.
I can do that. So be careful what you say.
Does that feel careful what you wish for?
I know, right? Okay. I already drew the names. We will announce them here. And then Harlow will also post them on Patreon. It's Tina Templeton because her name is so cute. And then Brenda P. P as in Paul.
Okay.
And next time we'll do them. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll post them in the morning, and then people can get a hold of us. Either they can message you or me or whatever, because we'll need the addresses.
Yep. And next time we'll do a more elaborate setup. Harlow, you'll have to find me whatever that app is that does whatever you say that it does, so people can watch the experience as deep and profound as it is. All right, so let's get into serious mode here.
Sorry, I was not abducted. I dropped all my cards.
We all saw that. Again, if you're on Patreon, after this, we will be live for our live show wrap up. Also, don't forget there is a 7-day free trial. You'll fall in love with us, I promise. Tonight, as you guys saw, Bryce Laspisa's how do you say it? Laspisa's. In August of 2013, 19-year-old Bryce started driving to make a 500-mile trip to his parents' home in Laguna Nigel, California. His parents were initially unaware he was coming. In a strange series of events, Bryce ran out of gas, had gas delivered, but then sat in the same spot for hours. When a police officer found him and searched his car, he seemed fine, but still called home to say he was going to pull over and rest. His car was found on its side with its belongings inside, but there was no sign of Bryce. He was never seen again. And then Harlow, just if you guys missed it, Harlow updated us on some new information that the dogs actually weren't able to track his scent. Patreon supporters, you get first crack at what questions you would like answered regarding our cases. And we do have a question from Violet. Harlow, if you want to read the whole thing, I just sort of summed it up.
Yeah. Violet's question is, did Bryce suffer from some sort of psychological break during the trip? Was he hallucinating?
I get no and no. Denise?
I get the same thing.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Let me just look at the comments really quick.
Congrats.
Will the one on Monday
Brenda,
be on Behind the Hauntings page or the True Crime? Monday's show was on True Crime tier. Congratulations. Hi, everybody. I'm just reading your guys' comments now. Hi. Hello. All right. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything because, I like to get everything in there. All right. Let me take this off. Bryce, what happened?
Yeah.
For me right now, I say right now because as we're learning, things can shift and change. And especially when you guys in the comments throw out your intuitive senses, it can help expand what we're getting. It feels like suicide. It feels like I'm seeing him running from the car. And then I'm seeing him just sort of for now, I'm seeing him running from the car and just disappearing. I feel him, right before we started, I was about to say, I'm not sure if he might still be alive, but that's because there was an attempt he attempted suicide and it didn't work. And then he did it again, attempted again, and it did work. I'm seeing rocks, caves, some foliage. I feel like it was a gunshot wound to the head. Denise, you're up.
So when the video was playing, I also felt that he unalived himself. I do feel he was successful in some way of making that happen, however that happened. He did try to do that in the car, but it didn't work, like the video said. So I do believe that was true. He left all his belongings behind. Did he leave his cell phone behind also, Harlow? Did they ever say anything about that?
I'm not sure about the cell phone. I think most of his belongings were still in the car or scattered around in the near vicinity because the car was at the bottom of an embankment.
Yeah, because I feel like when he was on the side of the road, what he was doing is he was really reflecting. I feel like the first attempt may have been prior to the travel. And then it's his mind was very fuzzy, so it is hard to get in there and see what he was thinking. But I feel like he had a plan and he was going to say goodbye.
Mhm.
Like he said goodbye to his girlfriend, he was going to say goodbye to his parents, and then he changed his mind while he was sitting on the side of the road about going to see his parents. But he did call for gas, you know what I mean, that sort of thing. But I feel like I'm trying to see if I can get in there to see what was causing his distress of why he thought that this was his solution.
Yeah, supposedly his behavior changed quite a bit in just the last few days before he left. He had been drinking a lot. He was taking supposedly a stimulant to help keep him awake, but I don't know how much of that plays into it.
And that's
But
probably
his roommate and his friend said his behavior changed a lot. Clearly, his girlfriend noticed it, and she was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
that's where Benno said dizzy and tingly. I'm guessing that's where that's from.
Yeah. And I feel like Janice is saying in here too, I feel like he ran away. Like when the car crashed and it didn't work, he ran.
ran.
He
Mhm.
and yeah, like you're seeing the foliage. I think he hid.
I think that to answer Janice, not to split hairs, but the reason why I don't agree with the mental break is because he was very clear about his intentions. And when obviously I'm not a doctor, therapist, or expert on suicide, but I have read a lot of people who are still alive, fortunately, and contemplating or have gone there many times. And then I've read those that have passed on from suicide. And more often than not, these people that have these experiences are very clear. They're not confused and they're not having a breakdown. And I think that's what can be most disheartening and scary and hard for family, because it's almost like if you can foresee it or make sense of why they would, then it makes it a little bit easier to manage. But when you have people who present themselves well and are very clear about their decision and there isn't any confusion or break mentally, the drugs and the drinking, the what I'm hearing him say he was trying to balance. He was feeling a chemical imbalance in his brain and he was trying to balance it out himself. He's saying that he had done research on depression, on suicidal thoughts, and the chemical imbalance that it leads to in the brain. And as crazy as this sounds, he's telling me that he was trying to balance it out himself. And he thought that he could. He when he would drink alcohol, at a certain point of that drinking, he would feel balanced. He'd feel okay. And then he'd keep drinking, and then obviously it just, but there was like this balancing effect that he would have with alcohol. So when he was sober and when he wasn't experimenting with all this stuff, he was so aware that he was having these thoughts. And that on one hand, he was like, this isn't me. Why am I experiencing this? And then on the other hand, he couldn't fight the thoughts. He couldn't figure out how to stop them. And he didn't go and get help. So I don't know if that helps anything. So, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Sorry. Yeah, I agree, April. Thank you, Violet, for that.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of like what Janice said, there was a break in the sense that he got clear. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit of both. He was really struggling, so that was where the mental break was. But then the other part of that was then he got very clear about his decision, because unfortunately, I also know people that have made that choice, and it's peculiar that they almost seem happier than they've ever been once they make that decision, because in their own minds the pain has stopped because they've made a decision.
Yeah.
As much as that is
Interesting.
tragic for the rest of the family and friends that are left behind, but because a lot of times if you hear this, like, oh my gosh, they were doing so well, this and that and the other thing. Because I remember my oldest son, when he was in high school, a classmate made that decision. And my son was a friend of his, and he was like, but he had been having difficulties, but he's like, Mom, he was doing so much better that, I thought everything was okay. He's like, I didn't think that that's what he was going to do. And so it was really hard on the kids, because they,
Of course. Interesting.
Common. So even I remember my son saying how he just seemed to be happier and, that sort of thing. And, so I think that's a pretty common process when somebody does decide to do that.
Yeah, it's something you hear quite often, actually.
Interesting. This is interesting to me, Benno, because he's mentioning heights, if he unalived off a cliff or something, because as soon as I saw that, I was like, I know I said a gunshot, but I felt something to the head and fast. And as soon as I saw Benno's comment, I thought, it may not have been a gunshot. It may have been a cliff.
Blunt trauma from a rock or, a jagged edge. Yeah.
Because the cop had searched his car and I'm sure they would have seen a gun.
Yeah.
Well, he would have had the gun with him.
Yeah, I know. The cop had, unless he got it later, but yeah, the cop had pulled him over. His mom had called. And
oh, that's right.
He searched the car. There was
nothing in the car.
He said he didn't look intoxicated. He searched the car. There was nothing there. So that makes sense.
Got it. Yeah, this is why it's
was there water? Was there like a ravine, like a canyon?
There's Castaic Lake. It's a pretty good sized lake right there. He was in Castaic.
Okay, so I could see, I think Benno's right. I think he then jumped. I feel like he threw himself against the rocks to catapult.
What's interesting too is Denise and I, we both saw, I saw real clearly him get out of the car and run, and then he disappears. He just poof, he's gone. So that's why when I saw, and Denise, I know you saw the same thing. So when Benno said height, it's like, oh, that's why he runs and then he disappears.
Yeah, they didn't find any footsteps. The dogs didn't pick up on anything evidently. So that's what made it so weird. It was like he just disappeared.
And he wasn't forthcoming with his parents about his struggles.
No.
And his parents
completely unaware.
Yeah, and because his parents would have been supportive.
They would have gotten him the help that he needed.
Yeah.
But he never talked about it. He never asked. And I feel like this was something that kind of came and went when he was even in high school, but he didn't give it much credence. And then as he got older, things got a little more wobbly, because it's very wobbly. He's very wobbly.
But he covered it up really well. So Benno, really quick, he saw the lake at the bottom. But what I wanted to say was this, what April says. Usually once they make up their minds, there's no changing it. That's what I felt from him. That's exactly what I was saying when the term mental break. And the only reason why I keep going back to that is I find it fascinating the difference, like how we can piece, like how when you dig down, you can be like, okay, it's not this, it's not that, it's not this, but that's how I felt. That's when I feel him, and when I talk to him, that's right there. Once they make up their mind, there's no changing it. That's how he felt. And he hid this from everybody. He hid the struggle, he hid the darkness, and he's excellent at hiding it, but he's also excellent at he putting up a good front, putting up a good strong face. He's caring, he's kind, he's aware of other people and their feelings and such. And so I just feel like the parents would even be like, there's no way this boy would do something like that. There's no way. Like, that's very hard for them to even grasp that he would ever take his own life. And I understand why they're saying that, because I feel what they're feeling.
Yeah,
So the question would be, where is he?
Yeah, because I know they searched the lake. Doesn't mean they, couldn't have missed something, but
See, I didn't follow him. I didn't see water personally.
Okay.
I didn't see water. I saw rocks and foliage and dirt but like dirt / sand almost, like the color of sand, I should say, not necessarily sand. Personally, I'd like, that's just for me, but it must be near water, because Denise saw water, Benno saw water. So he's gotta be near water, or they searched and they missed it or something.
Yeah.
I feel like, even though I know it was a lake, I feel like he drifted out of the area that they would have concentrated on searching. And it happened quickly. Was there a storm?
Not that I'm aware of. No one mentioned that, and I don't think so.
Okay. Because I feel like wherever he went in, like it was like a current just took him. And I feel like they did search a wide area, but because it's such a large lake, they just thought there's no way he could have drifted that far that fast.
Interesting.
Maybe.
That's how I feel like they had this concentrated area, and I feel like that, and I know this is going to sound awful, but there's not anything to find now.
I see that. Yeah.
Because even clothes, shoes, anything he would have had, it's not going to be traced back to him. It's not traceable back to him at this point, because it's been submerged for so long. They're just be like, oh, look, there's a shoe. You know what I mean?
I don't feel like they're going to find anything of his. I don't feel like they're ever going to recover the body. Okay. So let's talk about this. Sometimes the planning can be over years. Sometimes it is a quick decision. Getting help can make them angry, and they will make a show until they get the opportunity. That's very interesting, April. The stigma over mental health has just begun to lessen, especially for guys. Maybe he didn't
want to ask.
Want to ask. Yeah.
That's very
true. I think so too. He fell into a crevasse near the bottom on the way down.
Yeah, it's a kind of a little bit of a wilderness area around the lake, so it's possible.
So maybe he didn't drift off in the water. Maybe a animal came and drug him off. But I would think the dogs would have smelled him.
Yeah, I don't know the timeline. I know they weren't the animals, the dogs. They did use cadaver dogs and live scent dogs, but they didn't pick up anything. But they weren't deployed immediately. I don't know how much time went by before they were out there.
Oh, okay. Because I just feel like he was. I don't think he was alive when he was drug off, but I feel like he was drug off. So maybe it wasn't water that he was drifted off, that he was
some kind of movement.
I'm curious as to why in this situation, we're not going to find anything. Like, why is everything just gone? He just poof,
Why
disappeared.
didn't they find him then?
I mean, I feel the same thing that Denise is saying. My brain wants to say water too, logically, but my intuition is just seeing the same thing where he's, it feels like it's a current that's dragging him. It may not be, but that's what it feels like. Because he gets out of the car and poof, he's gone. So there's somehow, like we said, he threw himself over something.
It's a reservoir, so it's a pretty good size.
I feel like his soul was supposed to disappear, which is why we can't really even feel him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't really even, like, I can see the visual of the different things that we all are seeing, but I can't connect with him to see. His energy is very flat.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And it's weird because I can connect and then there's a disconnect, and then there's a connect, and then there's a disconnect.
Which makes sense because that's how he was in real life, in
exactly.
body. Like, he was.
There isn't a, with him, I don't feel like he understood the impact that his life had on his parents, and he didn't understand the impact it would have with him not being there.
Mm-hmm.
He's like saying he's not saying it from a place of anger or, like issues with parents. He was just saying there was a disconnect for him to understanding the connection a parent has to a child. Was he adopted?
Not that I know of.
Because there's some sort of disconnect that's that he's saying that was there. There's just always a disconnect that he had with the parents. They never felt he was saying that they were great. They loved him. They didn't, there was no ill will, but he just never bonded the way they bonded to him.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the reason for the suicide. That's not why. He's just stating that. And so he's not connecting or feeling like, how sometimes we've read people and they, were like, or we'll say like, listen, if they were alive, they'd reach out to their parents because you can feel their connection to the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have that. And it's not in an ill will way. It's just in a way of like, I don't get it. And he didn't.
An only child.
I feel like he's just, and not it's not good or bad. I just feel like he's in the void.
Yeah.
Of trying, like, he's just right here. Like he's like in the void. And it's not like it's dark, like dreary, like scary dark, but he's like, okay, what am I supposed to do now with this? Where am I supposed to go? And it's the same. He's almost having the same conversation that he had with himself in the car.
Which was?
He still doesn't, well, kind of to your point, like he still doesn't understand the impact that he had. He didn't think he made a difference to anybody, but because like he just, even his friends, not just his family or anything, but like he wanted to break up with the girlfriend so she wouldn't feel badly. He
Yeah.
wanted to spare her, you know. He then decided to not go see his parents because he wanted to spare them the anguish, even though he didn't have a lot of emotion around it. It was like he was just
He
like, okay,
didn't.
this is what I'm going to do. And the contemplation on the side of the road was more about, am I going to go or not? Because where am I going to do this if I go home and talk to them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, I think this is my opportunity. So I think it was opportunistic that he made the decision at that point. I do believe that he had already decided that this was what he was going to do. I don't know
Mhm.
that it was preconceived on the drive. I think when he ran out of gas, and I almost feel like the running out of gas was intentional.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
was just about to
Give himself
mention that.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, so I
It
think the
feels like
running out, yeah, that the running out of gas was intentional, and then he sat there for a long time, and then, okay, I need gas. So then he pinged the insurance for the roadside assistance,
Mhm.
but he's still playing this whole, like, I see like shuffling things in his mind, like, okay, if I do this or if I do that, but he's very, very neutral about the whole thing. There's not emotion around any of the things. It's like when you put treats under a cup and you want a dog to choose, like he's he's just like, well, if I do this one here, if I move this, like he's
Mm-hmm.
just very matter of fact about his
Mm-hmm.
decision, and his energy is still very neutral.
Like
Mm-hmm.
removed from it all.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, he doesn't, he's not upset, he's not angry, he's not sad, he's not, oh gosh, I wish I hadn't done that.
Mhm.
He's just, well, this is what I did.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm.
I agree. That's exactly how I feel too. So, Big Kitty is asking, when a soul comes to the earth plane and exits via suicide, is this something that was part of their life path and could not be prevented? I think when we look at death as a whole, never mind how it occurs, there's life path. We're 50-50 co-creators. Some people are, some of us, no, we all have moments in our life on our life path. And some of those moments we don't get a say in. And some of those moments we do get a say in. And sometimes, from an intuitive perspective, if you're very tapped in to your higher self and higher consciousness, you can sense that you have a choice here. You have a choice, and that choice can bring you down path A or path B. Some will say we always have a choice, and to a certain degree, we do always have a choice. But if you're 50-50 co-creators, your 50% is your choice. And after that, you make your choice, and spirits got their 50% in, and they, they sometimes have the last say. So can suicide be prevented is no different than saying the car crash that, killed someone, could that have been prevented? So it depends on every soul in every moment and their conversation with spirit and what their 50% is and what spirit's 50% is. And that is individualistic. That's not something any of us could ever pinpoint as a whole. It's different for literally everybody. And if we look at suicide, that death not being any different than if someone is killed in a car accident, and people might say, well, it is different because that person purposely took their life versus a car accident. There's been many times, as I'm sure Denise will attest to also, where I have read someone who passed and continuing to use the same metaphor of a car accident, and their soul was very aware and they were almost conscious of it, that this was it for them, and they weren't purposely setting themselves up for that passing. but there was just a full awareness that goes beyond the physical brain. And so I think when we start to piece how we die apart as if one way is preventable and one way isn't preventable, this is where we lose track of understanding how our connection to spirit works and how our connection to our higher consciousness works. Because if you have a deep rooted understanding of who you are as a consciousness before you enter this body, then you will have, to some degree, I don't mean literally, but you will to some degree see the path unraveling in front of you and why it's there and what you're supposed to be doing on it. And then when we start to see life from that perspective, death doesn't have a, well, if it's this way, it's this. If it's that way, it's that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Denise, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, it's sometimes you have a few more lessons to learn when you opt out, as opposed to it happening the way another way. So sometimes you do have a few more steps you got to take. But a lot of times when people opt for that as well, it's their soul is not capable of handling the lessons that they chose down here.
Mm-hmm.
And that also makes it difficult, because unless you've got that spiritual belief system of whatever that is for you, it just feels tragic and terrible. And, and a lot of, people might think you're going to go to hell. And I actually, had this conversation with somebody the other day at work. And it's like, I said, hell it's not a heaven and hell the way we were led to believe when we were kids, going to, church and things like that. It's, it's not, hot and fiery down there. So,
So Violet's asking, can either of you connect with him to see if he found peace? Or if, yeah, I've already connected with him and he's fine.
Yeah. I don't think he's unhappy. I don't think he's still just right where he is. And to add to that, even though he is right there where he is, his soul is taking a break. His soul is taking a pause, and he's not choosing to go to the next realm to get the new soul and, assignment, if you will. And so he's staying right here, taking a pause. I think life here this time was very, very difficult for him and very, very challenging. And I think it was hard for him to integrate into this life. And so because it was difficult for him to integrate in this life, he's taking that pause to integrate what he went through here now, where he's at now. And then when his soul's ready, it will move on and get the lessons that he's wanting and needing to learn for his soul growth. And then, he'll return when it's time.
I feel like he's there too. Don't apologize, Violet. It's a good question. I wanted to answer it anyway. It's really okay. Okay, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, April.
I agree, April. Yeah. I think it does too, because being a young person isn't easy. And I can't imagine, because this was 2013, I think it was, and, back then, I mean, even now, like social media is even more now, but it was, getting started and all of the pressure and all of the this and all of the that. And I'm like, we had enough of that. And we didn't have any, documentation of the nonsense we did,
Right.
And, so it's like, there's a lot more that they have to navigate at a younger age. And, so it's been, I think it is very difficult when they're distorted, because it's like, well, I don't look like that. I don't, whatever. I mean, he's got red hair. Who knows? Maybe somebody teased him about that. I mean,
Pressure
And, you
comes
know,
in so many different ways these days.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, well, I don't look like that person or this person, or, you know what I mean? And it is,
Mhm.
very true, April, that it does, it gets so disjointed that you just don't know. And then you're like, okay, well, if I'm not here, it's going to be easier for everybody.
Now, these cars left on the side of the road and people missing from there seems like a recurring theme.
Yeah, we've come across that a few times.
We have.
Yeah.
We have. Yeah, this is it is a strange case because I did look at the pictures and I didn't watch the video until we watch it tonight because sometimes I don't like to do that because
Right.
you know, um, and so it is interesting that he did wander off.
You know, it's like if someone doesn't want to be found,
Mm-hmm.
even in the afterlife, if you don't want to be found, you don't want to be found, because it's just like trying to connect with him now. He's like everything Denise described and I described. He's just not, he doesn't want to be found. He doesn't want to be.
Car trip was
Yeah.
like his life, is just go a little ways and stop and think about it, and maybe we'll do it and maybe we won't. I'll go a little farther. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's he definitely was like, nope, I'm good.
mm-hmm.
All really, really good questions.
Lots of good questions today.
Very, very good.
Well, I mean, it's a interesting case. Nice work tonight, everybody. Good case, Harlow, as always. Good read.
We had that suggestion for quite a while. I finally got to it.
That's a good suggestion. We got
Yeah,
some
that was a good one.
Good feedback from April tonight. Thank you,
Uh-huh.
April, for really helping with that. And Violet gave some really great feedback. Benno helped shape where we saw him going. And and just a little bit of a deeper understanding about those that have, suicidal thoughts and what that looks like. All right, you guys. For those of you on Patreon, we'll see you in just a few minutes. We're just going to take a quick bathroom break, and then we'll be on our live wrap up. Otherwise, we'll see you all on Monday night. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good night, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.